My name is Craig Bierko, and I'm happy to be on Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan. I want to warn you about loaning money to Jake Hogan. Don't loan Jake Hogan a goddamn thing.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
I love that theme. Thank you, Charlie Hogan, for the Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan theme. I am Jake Hogan, and you are being alone with me. Thank you for being here. I want to encourage all of you to like and subscribe to the show. Do it on the platform you're listening to the show on. And if you're not listening on or watching on YouTube, go to YouTube and subscribe there. All of Daddy's Jing is going to come from YouTube. So you don't have to even watch on YouTube, but just go and subscribe to that. Tell your friends to subscribe to that. And then I can afford to have the swag I want. Figure out what the show swag should be. Haven't even been able to do it yet. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to get some good show swag, and then I'll be able to give it out to you guys. Thank you for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please write to me at dbawjk@gmail.com. That's Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan, dbawjk@gmail.com. And please include your suggestions for the show. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. Tell me what I'm doing right. And especially offer some questions to our very important and wonderful and funny guests. What are your questions about life and philosophy and the world for our guests? And I'll, if it's a question about painting, I'll try to get it to a painter. If it's a question about astrology, I'll get it to an astrologer, so you can be specific. But I want to hear what you have to say. I'm very excited that people are really enjoying the show and giving me positive feedback. And it's kind of cool. It's accomplishing what I was hoping it would accomplish, which was I feel less alone in the world. And I hope that you can feel less alone too by listening to it and being in contact with me. That's a real offer. Okay, anyway, today's show, we have a great guest. We have Craig Bierko. He's a very wonderful actor and very funny and very handsome. And he's one of those guys who's so handsome and so funny that he could have been a writer. He could have been an actor. He could have been modeled. He could have been anything. And he just does what he wants to do. And for that, I hate him. To the very marrow of his bone. No one needs to be that perfect. That's what I say. Anyway, he doesn't think he's perfect, which is what's great about him. He has plenty of insecurities. So you can't even hate him because he's too lovable. I was grateful to talk to Craig, and I'm happy for you to hear what he has to say. So without further ado, when we come back, we'll be back with great Craig Bierko.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Craig Bierko, thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure.
I'm always been delighted by you as a friend and as somebody who's as funny as any writer I know. We used to operate together on something called the Stump,
Which is, well, you humble yourself because you create.
I did create the Stump. The Stump was an internet group of like-minded idiots who wanted to find a place where we could be bawdy and silly and mean and crazy without repercussions. It was sort of like a little clubhouse.
And it was the early days of the internet. And yes. I do remember I found it through Steven Weber. Mm-hmm. I'll hold for applause.
Right.
I found it through Steven Weber. At the time, I was doing a play in New York, and I couldn't talk during the day because I had to save the
voice, save the instrument.
Basically playing a man shouting at a Knicks game for 3 hours. And he said, I got this thing called the Stump. I'm on this thing. You might really enjoy it. And to say the least, it was life-changing.
Yeah, it was for me too. I really enjoyed it. They had really smart, funny people writing things, some mean stuff that was unnecessary, and like all things in the internet, some horrible things happen.
Yes.
So which is fine. But I got to know some people very clever. Steven Weber, who is also hysterically funny and wonderful and a good guy, and many other people who
countless people who
participated in the Stump.
Yeah, people who are still in my life. And it just blossomed into friendships. It was like a garden. It was great. And I remember it was the early days of the internet. So you would type something, and it just looked like type on a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. and it would take 5 minutes for something to show up. So you had to time it right. And the first thing I wrote, I did you made the horrible mistake of trying to make a funny introduction.
Sure.
And it didn't show up, so I wrote it again.
Right, and then
changed it slightly, and then 15 minutes later, 3 versions of an edited thing came, and Dean Cameron, who is a friend, but the very first thing he ever said to me was, "What a fucking goofball!" It was something like that, exactly the way I didn't want it.
Shitting on you in the perfect way.
It was perfect.
It's interesting. I'm in the record books as the only man who never made money on the internet. That whoever created something, a huge internet group with major celebrities who made no money. So, Bierko, if I may call you that.
Yeah, why not? That's what the urchins of Italy call me. They yell out Bierko. Bierko.
I have a question. This show is about me dealing my...
Full stop. Go ahead.
We waited a little bit for Craig to be here. We got here yesterday, and Craig just arrived, so it's fine. It's cool.
I'm actually his son. Craig passed away 4.5 years ago during the Uber wars, during the Uber Lyft wars. No, I'm
very funny. I only say that to make you uncomfortable. That's really the only reason. Of course. There's no other reason to say that. Yeah. But I do, even in the Stump, and even when we're making jokes and where it's an interesting phenomenon that you and Hank and that group of actors and Richard Kind and all it was nonstop joking, but that's also like how you were just being one group together. Like that's that community. That was the community.
I mean, I don't want to shatter anybody's. It's the truth. Yeah. To hold a community together, especially, time marches on, and that's not a community anymore.
Right. No, I understand.
And it's for various reasons. I can say Richard Kind, more like he's always been one of my favorite people. Mm-hmm. And in college, he went to Northwestern, but like the century before.
Right. Sure.
He's very, very old.
Very old. Yeah.
I used to go to watch him at Second City. Mm-hmm. The very first time I saw Richard Kind, Second City at that time was getting a lot of, do you need to tell the people about Second City?
Oh, the people,
as the host,
the 8 people who watch the show are members of Second City. I promise you. They know who watch it.
That was just top flight. And we used to go there all the time, but it was getting a bit of a reputation for being the runway for Saturday Night Live, right?
Yeah.
And the people of Chicago, it's such a great city, they kind of resented, like, this is our thing. It's like a Mets fan.
Sure.
You don't want them. Victory has nothing to do with it. It's the joy of the misery.
Sure.
It's our Cubs. So, but it was really, really great, but everything was it was beginning, I guess, to feel a little bit like Saturday Night Live. So the show started, and I think it was kind of mediocre. It was like they came home they opened the refrigerator and they were like, the coleslaw jumped out of the refrigerator, and it was like,
that's the premise, yeah.
And you just heard, "This is terrible," from the audience.
Right.
Do something topical. And you were literally like, Jesus, someone's nuts. And it didn't stop. And then finally they turned and go, "Can you do any better?" He goes, "I can give it a try." And and there was Richard Kind in all of his hilarious glory.
Yeah. It's a good introduction. It's a good way to do it. I love Richard. He's done this show. He sat in this seat and talked to me about too much stuff. Yes. The show we did about him was like, having no edit button on what you say to people.
He has no editing
facility.
I saw the show last night. You were not good. It was terrible.
Exactly.
I say that because I've seen you be great.
Exactly. So, Craig.
Mr. Bierko's fine.
Okay, Craig. Your mom, I didn't know this until I did some research. No, my mom. My mom was not an acting teacher.
Okay.
Your mom.
I didn't accuse.
Your mom.
Neither was mine.
Your mom was not an acting teacher?
Not an acting teacher.
I thought
Sorry to.
What? Tell me.
Maybe
I read that.
Yes, but you read fast. Slow down a little bit. Not everything.
Ran an acting school?
No, she ran the community theater, the Harrison Players.
Okay.
She was the president of the Harrison, but yes, the George Harrison Theater Players.
All right.
We developed Time Bandits.
Wow, fantastic.
Just us kids.
Was that the impetus for you to say, I'm going to be a performer?
I don't know what it, I honestly don't, I have no idea what it was. I know that I was, I got it, when I got to school, I didn't ever, I don't know, I wanted attention. You know, I wanted positive attention.
We all did.
And I also loved, my earliest memories, I loved song and dance, like guys, you know, song and dance.
Right.
And comedians who, as they say, work easy. You know, Jack Benny and George Burns, and those, Bob Hope as a comic.
Work easy, meaning not the sweaty kind of comics.
Who just, just, you know, that with a glance, that had an influence on me early on. And also, there was something about the guys who were just past their prime doing soft shoe because they no longer could do the Cagney sort of high.
That's the saddest thing ever.
I loved it.
I hated it.
It was most charming. That makes you depressed?
So depressing. That whole like George Burns coming out with the soft shoe sand thing.
And then I love
and it's just like, and that sham dancing with the tapping your legs.
Yeah.
That's not dancing. That's like a
What is it like inhabiting pure evil?
Well, that's my question. That brings me to my bigger question, which is this.
All it is charming.
It's not charming. It's
what were you
admitting defeat in some way. It's admitting I'm not, like, if instead of doing a buck and wing and a thing like some of these,
if their limbs would fly off.
I understand, but some of them, like Bob Hope and George Burns and you know, some of them were dancers.
Buck and wing. Did you say buck and wing?
I did. James Cagney, they fancied themselves as dancers, as real dancers.
Yes.
And then they came out and then did soft shoe.
Hold on.
All right.
Because buck and wing.
Buck and wing. You know,
fancy
do you know what that is?
As dancers. I don't want that. Okay. I can't.
Right. This thing where this thing.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the buck and wing people.
But that they would have been. I guess they would have been our age.
Correct.
Because are we at Mertz? Are we full Mertz yet? Our age?
I'm 60 years old.
Okay. What was Mertz?
I think he's like 43. Honestly.
Yeah, that was the older people.
Yeah.
Because there was a time where like lifespans have gotten longer. So they was like the lifespan.
If you were Fred Mertz, I think was 43 or 48 or something like that.
Which was how long people live.
Yeah, exactly.
The average age of the Continental Congress was 13.
Sure.
Benjamin Franklin was 11 years old, and he was the wise old man.
Amazing guy.
Right?
Amazing guy. But I don't know.
He hadn't even made CIT at camp yet.
It's like if the great comedian went out and did knock jokes. It's sort of like, that's not. Yeah,
I get it.
One of the things I thought you might be able to shed insight in is one of you've had a couple characters over time that have been bad guys.
Yeah.
The Cinderella Man, Max Bear boxer guy. Was a bad guy.
Not in real life.
Well, in the movie.
In the movie, they did.
And in the Long Kiss Goodnight.
Yes.
Turns out, not at the beginning. I don't want no spoilers.
Sociopath.
But just bad guy. Uh-huh. You as an actor, I assume, can't play a character as a bad guy. You have to play a character as a character to find the humanity in that character and then justify the actions. I don't know. Is that how you approach it?
Well, I probably started in a more utilitarian, like, why me kind of way. Like, what is it that, what is it that how do I keep this job? How do I keep this long enough where there's so much film that it would be economically
how do I not get fired?
To fire me?
Okay, yeah.
So I would think in terms of like, what is, like, why me and not one of these go-to guys who are out in the room? And I think, of course, him. Like, why not that guy? He's great. I think it was a couple of things. I have a very strong memory. I think it was one of the first times I went to see a movie and I did not feel safe. And I was smart enough and old enough to be aware that this was shot a year ago, at least. So I'm okay. This is an image projected, but I don't feel safe. And it was watching Bruce Dern in The Cowboys.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I'd never seen a performance that was that terrifying. Plus, it's John Wayne. He's basically the male version of the Statue of Liberty, but a little taller, right? And spoiler alert, gets shot in the back by Bruce Dern. And I thought, nasty.
He's also mean to kids in that movie. He proves it.
Oh.
His evil in 12 different ways.
Let me see if I can, because there's a really funny little, or I don't know, funny, but an interesting full circle. So that movie had real impact
Right.
on me. I couldn't shake it. Even if I had become a banker, I would never be a banker. But if I'd done something differently,
Right.
that would be, I would never forget that performance.
I don't. It sticks with me too.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. I think a lot of people felt that way.
Yeah.
So much so that I think I saw an interview with him and he thought, yeah, it kind of screwed me up because I was going for leading man and now I was seen as the
Right.
guy that you don't
Right.
want around your kid.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Interestingly enough, I don't know if you've ever seen Once Upon a Time in the West, the Sergio Leone movie.
Yes.
But Henry Fonda
Oh yeah.
is evil in that movie. And it was like really hard for Henry Fonda to do that. And it was interesting that he took the role because
Yes.
it's so against type. And apparently he showed up on the first day of filming in contact lenses, but also there was a big hat and costume. He was burying himself in a costume, and slowly but surely they kept taking pieces away. So do it without the hat, do it without the vest. And the very last day before shooting, do it without the contact lenses.
It's terrifying to see Henry Fonda be
Right.
bad.
Yeah, exactly.
I had seen that movie. It had an effect, and here I am. Fast forward, I'm auditioning at
Right.
Lorimar, for a show called Guns of Paradise, and it was the bad guy, Johnny Ryan, and I got it. And they said, "Can you ride a horse?" And I said, "Yes." Couldn't. It was so went.
Sure.
And there used to be across from NBC in Burbank, there was a little horse.
Yep.
And I said, I'm doing a TV show, and I did the actors live. I know how to ride a horse.
Right.
I don't know how to ride a
Right.
horse. I said, we'll teach you. We'll get you up on macaroni. And they bring out a horse named Macaroni. Literally, I
Right.
could just step onto it. It was like a U. And I literally I think I was just walking.
Right.
And so the first episode went great. I had a
Right.
good time. And I was really comfortable playing the bad guy and realizing there was that to play against it. The reason I think they kind of chose me was I didn't necessarily look like
Exactly
a bad guy.
right.
So I was kind of playing against it and thought, okay, I'll kind of like tap the gas on that a little bit. And it was so effective that they bought me back to kill
Right.
me in the next episode,
Right.
or the next I think the next season they bought me back to kill me. Now, I loved watching the Cowboys, and I wasn't doing Bruce Stern. It wasn't written
Right.
that way. I was doing Jack Nichols. I remember talking like
Right,
this
yes.
a lot. I think I was
Right.
imitating more than acting.
Yeah.
But they were convinced I knew my way around a horse because I had ridden into town
Sure.
and gotten off of one with such confidence,
Sure.
such alarming confidence, that I found myself on the top of a grade of hill. And they said, okay, so this is a real quick shot, but we need to get this, before the sun, whatever, so we can begin the scenes. But so all we need you to do is, I'm gonna throw sand at the back of your horse's hooves. That's gonna get him, and just go. You'll canter. You'll see the cameras at the other end of the field. You and your guys. And I noticed there are 10 guys
Right.
behind me, my bad guys.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah. What? Okay, I don't remember this. And it's on the call sheet. It's just that little sliver they ride in. So I thought, the last time I wrote in, I
Right.
just got off. I wrote in. He goes, this will be faster.
Yeah.
So you'll see the camera. So all you do is you'll start cantering and then get into a full gallop and just get as close to that camera as you possibly can. It's gonna be a beautiful shot. We're cranking. It's fast or slow,
Right.
whatever it's gonna be.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so you're going to throw sand? Yeah, we throw sand. It bothers them. They hate that. They'll take off fast. And you won't have to kick them to get them to canter. And I'm like, I won't have to kick. I was supposed to kick them. There's kicking. And he goes, yeah. He goes, I said, is there a chance that could I get hurt? And he goes, well, you didn't know what you were doing. Yeah, here we go. And I was like, somewhere in what ever was Lorimar, which no longer exists. And I'm convinced this was the beginning of his downfall. Was there is a shot of a man on a horse just going, hey, okay. So I literally, and I'm not exaggerating.
Right.
Okay? And this horse realizes, I think I got some Jew on me.
Right, exactly.
Right. and turns, and I'm only seeing colors and sky and
Right.
cheese and my family going, come, well,
Right.
ancestors, here you go, come on, here
Right,
we
you saw
go,
the light,
here we go,
the light
you
was
let
coming,
it go,
yeah.
let it happen, it's gonna hurt for 20
Right.
minutes, you'll break your bones,
Right.
just put you, and then I saw he's heading towards a limb of a tree to get this idiot off of him. He's got this giant tick on his back. And all of a sudden, I went, I'm going to die. I was sure I was going to die. And all of a sudden, the horse just stopped. And all of these guys, there were like 8 to 10 of them, like wings, surrounded and made a circle around me. And one of them goes, you don't ride, do you? And I went, no, that's whatever I did. That's what he goes, just, you're fine, just step off the horse, okay? So, obviously I couldn't ride. They needed to get this shot. Lee Horsley, the star of the show, saw the whole thing. He's laughing his ass off. I said, I thought I was gonna, he goes, oh. Now I had a little bit more than I've got now, but he had that too. He put on my costume and they put the camera back a little bit more, and I'm chasing him, and he played me chasing him. And I've got a picture of us, in the same costume. Now, the thing that was really remarkable was these guys were stuntmen, and 3 of them were brothers from the Cowboys.
Oh, wow.
They were the little kids.
Yeah.
So I think one of them with the glasses, and I was like, wow, that's kind of full circle.
Yeah, they saved you.
Yeah, you don't seem impressed with that at all. You could write it better. You could tell it better. You'll edit it into something, right?
No, it's fantastic, and I think the meaning of it for you is what's all of it. I mean, that's that you saw this movie as a kid, and now you're sort of in this movie.
I'm in the movie.
Yeah, and you're playing the thing. I want to get back to a little bit,
and maybe don't lie.
You're evil. That's right. But the evil. So how do you invest yourself in an evil character, and are you evil? Because and the larger question here is, most people who are jerks, who are evil, we could take some people from the Stump or whoever who did evil things, didn't think of themselves as evil. They thought that, it's good humor, it's good fun. I've run into people at high school reunions who were bullies, who had tortured me. It was like, hey, Jay, how's it going? Who didn't remember the torture, who didn't remember the bullying. They just thought we were buddies.
They thought we were having fun.
Yeah, their memory of it was
you're the clown. You play the clown.
It's good fun. It's all good fun. And the question I have to you, and because of your acting ability and the fact that you've had to embody evil people, but think of them in more dimensional ways, is how do we know we're not evil? How do we know we're not jerks?
That's an interesting question.
How do I know that I'm not the biggest jerk in this room?
I don't know. I think intention counts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of a deep question, and I'm not sure I'm capable of answering it.
Well,
I know
thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it. Craig Bierko, everybody.
My experience personally is, if someone's real, if they're evil and they're good at it, or that it literally could be a psychological impairment. There is such a thing as malignant narcissism. There is, and sociopathy and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I had, how do you say it? Like, I wasn't as distant for a long period of time from someone who I couldn't figure out what is going on. Like, what is this? And had access to somebody who knew all about that stuff, and called them and said, this is the behavior I'm witnessing. What is this? I don't feel safe. And it was, there were a few people in my life who were part of that cluster B fun club, the DSM-5, that psychology book would describe as there's narcissism, borderline, in work and then socially also. And the thing that they had in common was there is something missing. And the way it was described to me was, don't give it too much thought. It's like trying to imagine being a blender. There are some things this is one of the top people in the field, and I had access and said, what is this? And he said, there's some things that are unknowable, but there seems to be a lack of self, And really, it's more fragile than it looks. They've developed an exterior that is fearsome, that because they're protecting a wound, but it's all bark. And you can literally, with certain personalities, you can clap or make a sudden noise, and they'll literally wake up as if out of a trance, and they will have seen themselves and they'll feel shame, and they might snap back into the behavior, or they might literally walk away. And I've seen that happen. It's very strange. And I started playing bad guys. I mean, I was for some reason, Rennie Harlan wanted a guy in Long Kiss Goodnight who did not look threatening.
Well, that makes total sense.
So, and was deeply threatening.
So
like that was part of it.
A little bit of a surprise.
Yes.
So that's the cool surprise.
And part of the audition, I knew, I'm going to have to do the scene where you think he's a nice guy. And then there's, of course, the scene where he's been revealed as the human tarantula that he is. And I think I kind of instinctively walked in and knew nobody knows who I am. So I'm going to walk in already being this guy. And Rennie Harlan is a Viking. He's 17 feet tall. And Gina Davis was there. And she, unbelievably beautiful and a movie star. And to walk in and feel like I don't know what, I have no business, but let's give it a shot. There was no other way to walk in. So I walked in and they said, let's start with the first. I said, let's start with the second scene. And I need you to sit there. You got to move the camera there. And I want you right by the camera because I'm going to go really small. And I just was, I knew what I was doing, but I think it was mine to screw up after that.
Right. Okay.
And I have heard of people like of all people, is it JB Smoove? Who's on from, he talked about walking into the room to audition for Larry on Curb Your Enthusiasm. And he said, I walked in as Leon and they did not know what the hell was going on because Leon's, but I walked in with all that crazy energy because he's not really like that.
No, he's not. Absolutely.
Do you know him? I don't, I've spoken to him briefly.
I almost sold him a car of mine. So I had
I'm sorry that didn't work out. Jesus, let's Jew it down a little. Jesus.
We had a very nice conversation. There was nothing like his character.
Do I need to say I'm a Jew so that I'm not aligned with these horrible people? Okay.
You said it just by being here. I only have Jews in
anyway, I don't know if that explains anything.
Who's the best you ever worked with? The best showrunner / director? Who's among?
That's really hard to say. Yeah. That's really hard to say because some of the I mean, someone who left an early impression on me was Lee Shalit, who directed who directed Sydney, and because I had just met what this storm that was to become Matthew Perry. The day I met him, and we became this really close friends. But the minute I met him, I remember walking into the studio, it's like really dark, you can't see. And then from space, I see this figure emerge.
Right.
And I don't remember what he said. I remember dropping to my knees. To quote Kevin Pollak, he dropped me. I fell on the ground and I was laughing so hard, I'm literally pounding. And it became my job that day. It was my first gig, but my job was to make him laugh. I had to. I do remember that. They didn't. I don't think they knew I was cast, but they weren't. I was taller than most people, and so David Pressman would say, "You're an inch below Monster. Monster is 6'4.5", and you're like an inch below Monster." Anyway, I had to leave the room from the scene, and everything was 10% too small. I'm just 10% too large for the world. I'm constantly bumping into things. And I opened the door and I hit there's some lamp outside the thing. I hit my head on the prop. And I heard, ha! It was the Alan Alda laugh, the high pitch. That was the bell that you wanted to ring with Matthew. You get the Alan Alda laugh. And it dropped him. And I just thought, I can go, now I'll go on with the business of my career.
Now, in Matthew's book that he wrote, he said that for him, it was painful to not be the funniest guy in the room. Yeah, and I understand that. But when we used to spar with him and like he would make us laugh and I would try to make him laugh or make other people laugh, I thought it was good fun. I did not realize I was imposing pain.
What I learned, this is a really tough one, and I'm reconciling a lot, so I don't know how, I'll say what I can, but I might have to rear back because it's hard.
Yeah.
But I fell in love with Matthew's whole thing, and I to a fault, I think I'm not a competitive person. To a fault, I mean, like I am not. Maybe it explains, a lack of marquee-ness. I don't know, but I saw him and I thought, I think I may have met the funniest person I've ever met. And what a delightful time this is going to be, because it'll always be, I'll just constantly be meeting, and I never met anybody like him.
Right.
And as I got to know him, because we started hanging out with each other, and we found there was so much similarity in our backgrounds and our families, and in our sense of humor, and the way we negotiated our way through the world, the way we dealt with a deep, profound sadness that at that age we couldn't even begin to define, but we knew that we smelled it on each other.
Right.
I saw, as I got to know him, I saw, I don't want to be too specific because I don't want to hurt anybody, but I saw when I watch Kramer on Seinfeld, what happened on, that explosion on stage, I don't think it was racism. I think whatever it was, there was an energy that you don't walk through a door like that for 8 years and never ever not be hilariously funny if there's not jet fuel.
Right.
I mean, a dark, black, powerful jet fuel. So I don't know Michael Richards. I think there was genius there. He lifted the show to something I heard Jason Alexander say. He made it an international hit. He was the clown. He spoke the international language. I recognize that on Matthew. Matthew was kind of an aerodynamic machine. I realized the more I saw him, and I would try to imitate him. I thought it doesn't work on me. He very good looking guy, but the expression of pain, and I need to stay, like I can't explain it, but he became a handsome knife, Right. And I would try to do it, and I'd have people say, that's not becoming. Right. Try not to make that face again. Yeah. So it wasn't something you could I was aware of it, and I found it to be remarkable, and I was in awe of it. And I wanted to be around it. And there were times when, you have those young moments of despair that seem operatic and are going to be the end of your life. Like you break up with a girl and you think, oh, that's it for happiness. I'll get a hobby, but I won't be a happy person. You pick up the phone, and we went to lunch every single day, and we just made each other laugh. We were in that luxurious couple of years. There was enough activity happening that we could sort of afford to do that. Our show got canceled really quickly. And but this friendship developed, and I got to know the full measure of the man early on, which was not without trouble and darkness. Yeah. Same here. No, it's not. But I don't, and I'm sure we fought. I only remember one fight, which was on a tennis court. And that makes sense because what Matthew was that I don't think it was not a parallel, was he was a true competitor. Right. I mean, he was, and he was a seated player in tennis. So to get on the court with him. Yeah. I mean, I remember I went to tennis camp, and I was not good, but I knew how to play tennis, and I remember the frustration that I didn't feel in trying to out-joke him, because whoever got to the laugh first, for some reason, that's fine. There was it wasn't winning, it was laughing. Right. And, but on the tennis court, I do remember he hit a ball, and I hit it to that side of the court, and he was on this side of the court, and he hit it back, and he hit it back to me. Right. So I hit it to that side of the court, and he was there. Right. And I thought, I'm going to make it look like, and then I hit it there, and he hit it, and it went right by me. And I don't think that was the start of the fight, but it was not a good time. And
Right.
whatever it was that there's an atom of competition,
Right.
just pure male.
Right.
Oh, fuck.
Right, yeah.
It was that. And it was also, I gave him what I thought I had blessed him with, the most appropriate. I thought I've never had a nickname. I've always wanted one, and I'm going to bless you with one. You're Everywhere Perry. I hate you, but
Right.
you're Everywhere Perry.
Right.
And it didn't stick.
Right.
Every once in a while I call him Everywhere, but everybody called him Matty. And in the book, everyone's calling him Matty. I never heard it. And I never called him Matty. I called him Matt.
Yeah. Maddie or Matthew.
Matthew.
Yeah.
It was Matthew or Matt.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that was, but I wasn't one of those like, call me Craigie.
Right.
Like I didn't have one of those names. But anyway,
Everywhere Perry, by the way, terrible nickname. Terrible nickname.
I'm sure it was true, but
Yeah.
he was fleet of foot, certainly
Sure.
on the court. There was no beating him. I sensed that, and it awakened some sense of, I'm never going to be that. But in terms of comedy, I thought it's like aspiring to be Della Reese. Like
Right.
it's a completely different. Like you are remarkable. Now, I had no trouble saying that and feeling that.
Yeah.
And everyone we've spoken to or about, yourself included, you wrote, you could publish it on the page or something, but just the letter you wrote telling me about what this podcast was going to be was funnier than anything that's been on television for 12 years.
They don't let funny on TV anymore. It's all right.
It's
only in emails.
And it was what was on the Stump. It was just, here is a writer who's just enjoying writing. There's, we know each other.
Yep.
So there was a familiarity, and it was the kind of stuff that I just love, and it was really an easy kind of funny. What did I start with? Because I start complimenting you, and it's so unnatural that I get lost.
I don't know.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
We were talking about Matthew and about his strengths and weaknesses.
Which he was bravely open about.
Right. I didn't know him as well as you did. I knew him a little bit, and I thought he was incredibly funny and very interesting and fascinating. And I was very sad when I found out how sad he was and all that other kind of stuff, and reached out, and he wasn't interested in reaching back.
Well, that was part of it too.
Yeah.
I don't want to reduce anybody to a caricature or oversimplify what he was dealing with. He was a complicated machine, and I'm not sure I fully understood.
No,
and there were moments of, if you love somebody, you at some point, I think, you look for that perfect woman or that perfect friend, and you dismiss anything lesser than, and you realize I'm spending a lot of time by myself.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I've got to start accepting people's
Flaws.
eccentricities and faults, and do I love them more than I can't stand this one quality? Also, how do I neutralize this? How can I help?
Right.
But I have footage of us fairly recently of us together, and it's us being us.
That's great.
And it's great, but it's also like we never found our way to create, like that would have been a joy to create because that was part of the plan,
right,
way back when. But
to create something together.
Yeah. And to have this footage is priceless to me.
Let me just interject one thing, because I'm listening to you, trying to sort of. I'm
in the midst of. I'm not there yet.
I understand.
So it was but I wanted to.
But I will say this, that it's the artist's journey. Maybe it's everybody's journey, but it's certainly the artist's journey to be a fatalist. In other words, things happen that every project we embark on is a question mark.
Yes.
Every single day is a question mark. Will I even get an offer? Will somebody hire me? All those things are crazy question marks that can never be answered by us. So we just are in the hands of fate, and we walk through the world in the hands of fate. And at the end of the day, all we have is the experience of the journey. What we've done before will inform what we maybe choose in the future, and that's it. And then who we become, who we are embodied in this moment are a result of all these choices and things that we've made. And thank God. And at the end of the day, I have nothing but praise for all the failures I've done and all the great things I've had happen to me and all the things I could have done but didn't do, and instead I did this. You know, every choice is a gain and a loss, and everything, but you can't perseverate over it because it's pointless. We are just who we are because of all that stuff.
But you do have to accept that other people will.
Right.
And they will, I understand the role that I play in the story of that, and in the larger story. You know, the day after, I'll say this, I read the book. A close friend of mine read the book as soon as it came out. And this was actually an ex-girlfriend who called me and said, read the book. There's nothing in there that might, and you know what? I think he misses you. And my joke was, I'll write a book and I'll tell him I miss him.
Right.
You know, and it'll be a very slow moving text conversation. I read the book and it was beautiful. It was a hard read. There were things that I didn't recognize, but this is his story.
Right.
This is his telling of the story. Mainly that it was so, and so I digested it and I thought, I want to, I don't want to wait for our birthdays.
Right.
I want to, so how do I don't want to make any mention of like, I remember it this way and get into like one of those stupid fights.
Yeah.
But I wrote him a note and I said, I'm so proud. You wrote a book. That's big.
Yeah.
You wrote a book. I can't believe with how the hours we logged talking about ourselves and sharing pain and then laughing, trying to get past it. I did not know how much we had in common. There was that whole section, the prelude about him arriving to Los Angeles, I either didn't hear or didn't receive, or he had never said to me. And the depth of the disappointment he had at that time, particularly with his dad, and I identified with a lot of that stuff. It was a hard read, and I know it is I hear from people all the time about how it's helpful, but it's hard. And I said that was something, and also you sent a bullet into the beast, and you put my name on it, and I couldn't be prouder of it. Or of you, and I love you so much. Yeah. And it wasn't the first time. We'd become old men enough that I have all of these texts and emails of, I love you, I can't wait to see you. Here who's I'm seeing now, and then that didn't work out, and here's, I just thought of this, it made me laugh, and all these inside jokes. I knew who we were. The public stuff is tolerating, and there's a heartbreak that I don't know that I'll ever reconcile or get to. And I'm working on it. Like it's beyond my ability to articulate.
I mean, it's lost, but what else is there to reconcile? In other words,
well, I think it was the opening of a conversation that
you didn't get to have.
Yeah, we didn't get to have it.
Right.
That would have been it would have been a luxury that comes with being old guys on a bench. What I felt the truth honestly was, and it was actually something that was said to me by somebody who knew both of us intimately and we considered very close, and it was a safe thing to say, was the fate was one had to survive doing it and one had to survive not doing it, and it's perfect. And let's see where we are, and I don't, you can't, it's dangerous to draw direct lines to say he didn't, I mean, I happen to think he was on the road the day I met him, and he was that goofy kid coming out of the darkness who made me laugh. He was already well down that road, more than I knew. That was in the book. And he told me that, years later, he goes, we'd go out drinking at the Formosa across the street. And this is, I'm not telling tales out of school. I said, I went home, and I knew from my dad, the real road is the second one from the left. That's the road you want to actually drive on when you're drunk. Irresponsible, bad moment. And That's also, I got off of that road because my dad had already done that. So I would go home and I would just like flop down and pass out. And he said that was just the beginning of the night for me.
Yeah.
And I just thought, oh, Jesus. Oh, I didn't even know.
Yeah.
And to love somebody, I mean, it was more than just laughing. It was, I loved. You want to take away somebody's pain. You realize you can't, but you get in there every day because you love them.
Right.
And at least I can make him laugh. And that was and he did that for me at times where there was no laughter, there was nothing funny, but he could yank it out of me, and I miss that. And I think that it's the simple primary color of that I'm still working through, of like, God damn it, I wanted that third act.
Yes, that's loss.
We were heading
that's loss, and I understand it.
And also
I miss
the
him.
way some other people have dealt with it, frankly, was disgusting, and not the way that I would deal with it. And I think a lot of this is just,
you don't think my miniseries is appropriate? Matthew Perry and me.
I think
it's just Jake Hogan and Matthew Perry, the character Matthew Perry. I play Jake Hogan.
I think the fact that I wasn't even brought in to play me.
We have a guy who's playing Bierko. I don't know.
Anyway, I just miss him and love him.
No, Sean Masterson,
I get
playing
messages all the time from people who are reading the book, and I hear, they're like, I was lost and I read it, but I also wanted to just let you know how much he loved you. And I do. And every person who says, it's never lost on me. It's like, there are people like, I know you probably get this all the time, but I really liked you. And it was like, any actor who tells you that they don't like hearing that, or that they might be having a bad day, but it's never a bad thing.
No.
Nobody ever goes up to a dentist and goes, what you did to Bruce Glasgow's mouth is magnificent. Thank you. Thank you. Like nobody,
people wrote me after Matthew died. Just wanted you to know that he never liked you. They made special effort. They went out of their way.
I thought that was otherwise.
Weird. Well, we do viewer mail section. I'm going to ask you a viewer mail question.
Now it's time for listener mail.
The question is from our listener Maynard, who says, "How do you define failure/success?" I mean, I'm just going to answer it for you, even though the question is for you. Yes, it's success. Agreeing to experience is success.
Yeah.
Saying, what comes is success. Leaving the house to do something that may be a little bit out of your comfort zone or fully in your comfort zone, but something new.
And there are days where I'm telling you, I'm in it. I don't mean to sell myself as like, I know these things to be true, but I'm in it. It is a fight. So anybody who is out there listening and just thinking, I wish I could find it, I am not there. And there are days where I'm just like, it's 1 o'clock, I'm in bed.
Right.
That's not good. But when I do, I go, just get up and just get moving, do it. And I do that and I create momentum. It's met with some sign of reassurance. It's not met with, here's your show.
Right.
It's met with some bit of, I'm happy I did that.
Right. There's an inner peace. There's a pride. There's a something. It's the same. It's the same stupid thing about like going to the gym or something like. You don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And if I do it, no matter what I do, I'm happy did it. Like I'm happy I was there. If I was there for 15 minutes or an hour.
That's right. Because the alternative was not having done that.
So there's success. That is success, and failure is giving yourself enough excuses to not do that.
Let me say, am I on 2, 3?
Yeah, sure,
Charlie, what am I on? I'm going to look right down the barrel. If you're out there and you are struggling with, if you identify with any of that, I totally get it. And I get it. But just keep moving. I believe in you. Craig believes in you.
Right. And let me look down to my camera and say, I don't believe in you.
Yeah,
give up now.
Mommy and Daddy.
It's over. It's over. You know what you need to do? Listen to more of these podcasts and press subscribe and like. That's what, just don't leave your house.
There's, we make fun and we kid.
Yes.
But there is, from the very beginning, there's been a warmth. There are very few people you can say this about. I have no negative memory where I thought that was an unfortunate moment to have witnessed with Jay. The love you have for your son, it's inspiring. Yeah. Your family, your dad, your legacy personally and your family legacy. It really is something. It's a blessing to behold and to have found my way via Steven Weber, who's been nothing but a nuisance to me in my real life. No, but to have found my way to that, you just keep saying yes. Like, these things accrue. Like,
Yes.
if you're having one of those moments, one of the things I can say that Stutz said was one of the first things he said, if at your lowest, if you just name 5 things you're grateful for, he calls it the grateful flow. Mm-hmm. Name 5 things you're grateful for. And it can't be something like, I have the new Ford Centurion, or whatever the goddamn thing is. It's, I got running water. I know where my next meal's coming from. I'm in good health, or whatever it is. If you can name 5 things, if you do that, you're already winning.
Right.
And it might not, you might feel it immediately, but if you make a habit out of it, it will add up. And so
I'm going to add to the 5 things you feel grateful for, to people who have been listening to the show, the 5 things that you love about yourself. There are 5 things. I know a lot of people who say, there's nothing I love about myself, but there are 5 things that you are great at, that you just know that you are great at, that's good in your life.
I think that's worth
that good, and it's worth considering that. And that's also one of the things that will help you get out of the house and move forward.
Be kind to yourself. I don't know why we're trained in this world not to, but we are for some reason.
Well, Craig, this has been a delight, and I want to thank you for being alone with Jake Hogan. You're the best.
No place I'd rather be.
And it was, it's been...
It's the greatest loneliness there is.
That's what they say. That's what the poster says. So thank you for that. I want to thank you, the audience, for watching our show or listening to our show and subscribing to our show. You subscribe to it, right? I mean, you subscribe to it. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, Jesus. Well,
they don't do it. I mean, my God. Anyway, please write into dbawjk@gmail.com if you have something to say to me, positively or negatively.
I don't have that kind of strength. Please only say kind things. I cannot.
It'll come to me first. Okay. I can screen it out. But say whatever you want to me, and I'll screen the good things to Craig.
And I want to thank, is it Lisa? David?
Yeah, no, it's Ryan.
Ryan. Marcus. Fantastic job.
Yeah, fantastic job. Goodbye, everybody.
Don't be alone.